This is AUGforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Repay. Repay offers omni-channel integrated payment solutions for Acumatica users. Whether you are making B2B payments or collecting them, Repay is your full-service payments provider. Power up your payments to empower your business and accelerate the AP and AR payment flow through one seamless integration. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Velixo. Velixo is an award-winning provider of Excel-based reporting solutions for Acumatica. With Velixo, you can build financial, project, and other business reports in Excel with live Acumatica data in just a few minutes and get the answers you need. If you know Excel, you can do it. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. Guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Monday, April 11th, 2022, and this is episode number 81, Jeff Altneu, Acumatica Bookkeeping Service. Hey, Jeff, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So before we talk about this interesting Acumatica bookkeeping service, I always like to get the brief origin story on all of our guests. So maybe you could start off with where you grew up, where you went to school, and what your first job was like out of school.
Sure, absolutely. Yes. How do I say this? I want to say that I'm kind of a hybrid between the coast of New York and Southern California. Interestingly enough, I was born in New York, but when I was 16 years old, I moved out to Orange County, California. And the reason why is because my father actually brought karaoke to the United States. You heard of karaoke before, right, Tim?
Yes, this sounds very interesting. Do tell.
Yeah. So he worked for Pioneer Electronics, and Pioneer was headquartered in Long Beach. And his job was really, he was a sales and marketing guy there. And the idea is that if karaoke, and this is back in 1988, that if karaoke would work, the best way to test it would be into the bars of New York City. So that was his job. He was out there, and his boss literally gave him the phone book. Back then, if any of your listeners remember what a phone book was, but he had a phone book, and he had to go out to the bars of New York and sell karaoke. And then he was very successful at that. And then their headquarters was in Long Beach, California. So that's what brought us out to Southern California.
That's pretty interesting.
Yes.
So the success in New York brought you out to Southern California. Yeah, I see there. You've got Saddleback College, Cal State Long Beach, and so that's where you started off out of high schools in Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach there.
That's correct. Yeah, Saddleback College, which is in Orange County. Actually, it's Mission Viejo, California. It was a 2-year school. I got my general studies there, associates, and then I went over to Cal State Long Beach with a bachelor's of communication studies.
So then you finish up there at Cal State Long Beach, and what's your first job like? And Is it even related to what you're doing now?
No, it's not related at all. My first job was actually at a company called Copyfax, and they were a reseller or a seller of Toshiba copy machines. So it was a long time ago, but yeah, that was my first job out of college.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm always curious on the background in this ERP space because I just find that people come into it from so many different angles, and that's why I always like to hear about, how you started off there. So
Yes,
thanks for
sir.
sharing that.
No, no problem.
So now why don't you tell us what you're doing now and how it relates to Acumatica?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So right now I am the VP of sales at a company called 24/7 Digitize. And what we do is we are the Acumatica bookkeeper, I like to say. Obviously, there are folks out there that have bookkeeping services. That's great that they're outsourcing this type of work. Really, the value add here is more of, with a bookkeeping service in per se, it doesn't necessarily have to be ours, but with any kind of bookkeeping service, you're saving a lot of money, internal costs that you wouldn't normally would use on a full-time employee, benefits, etc., and all that kind of good stuff. So that's kind of the first step that folks will do. Whether or not they have a labor issue or whatnot. But with us, Acumatica, I mean, we actually have a bookkeeping service catered toward Acumatica customers, 100% for Acumatica. Our team is trained and certified in Acumatica with 175 hours of this training and certification. So, the goal is really following and supporting Acumatica's best practices.
And how did this idea come about? Like, was this something Acumatica came to you with, or did you come out and figure this out on your own? Had you done something similar on other ERP systems? How did you come up with this Acumatica bookkeeping service idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it was just a lot of hearsay, a lot of talk. A lot of folks, whether or not they're Acumatica, resellers or Acumatica customers, that there is a need. I mean, from what I understand is that there's a lot of folks that love Acumatica, and it's a great platform. It's a powerhouse platform. It's just that once you go into implementation, it could be a little bit tricky. You have folks that are graduating, as I like to say, from, let's say, QuickBooks or other smaller types of accounting systems. And then all of a sudden they come into Acumatica, they get implemented, and then right when implementation is done, they're lost. So after speaking to folks based on either customers or even on the reseller side, we recognize, maybe there's a need here.
And when you say bookkeeping service, is it like a full outsourced accounting department, or is it maybe give us the idea of some of the services that you provide and what a typical client usually bites off, at least to start with?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So honestly, it really it's based on whatever the client needs are. We're very flexible when it comes to that, but our core service bookkeeping services that we offer is more of your order to cash activities, aka your sales, your AR transactions, customer payments and bank deposits, credit controls, commission management, customer support for AR related queries. And then we also have other types of activities such as your accounts payable, AP transactions, PO matching, customer support for AP related queries, and so on. We also have record to report, which is basically anything that's not a sales or a purchase that needs to be reported. So it would be most likely your monthly monthly book closings or quarterly book closings or maybe annual book closings, journal transaction postings, GL maintenance, reconciliations, payroll accounting. We don't actually do payroll itself, but we do work in coordination with the payroll vendors. We'll provide some types of journal entries on payroll, as well as contract management, 1099 multi-currency updates, financial reporting, operational inventory management reporting. all that good stuff.
And what intrigued me most about this, when I first saw this, I think I saw your LinkedIn post, and I always
Yes.
like using this podcast as an excuse for talking to people about things that intrigue me. And then we just hit record on this. What intrigued me about it is I've always looked at it this way. Now, obviously, I'm wrong, but I've always looked at it that in the QuickBooks space, like for smaller companies, there's a need for bookkeeping because a lot of small companies, there's just no one there who knows accounting at all. It's completely outsourced. But I always thought that once you get into the mid-market ERP space like Acumatica, companies are large enough to need having an in-house accountant. Now, obviously, you're finding a need for your service. How do you typically see that? Are you pairing with an accountant and you're just doing, part of the work, or do you really find that there's a lot of companies out there using Acumatica that just don't want to deal with the accounting at all?
It's more of the latter. It's more of the latter. They really don't want to deal with that at all. And again, by all means, I'm not an expert in this. I'm just saying from my based experience on this. But what I can tell you, Tim, is that I've talked to a customer last month who still haven't closed their books from 2020, from Q4 2020, because they're just so focused on other things, other facets of the business, right?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that doesn't sound shocking. Yeah, I assume that happens a lot.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and it also comes down to also customers I've spoken to that have, bookkeeping for QuickBooks. And then when they graduate, I like to say they graduate to Acumatica because as their business grows, they're obviously going to need a more robust, ERP to kind of help them take them there. Their normal bookkeeper that is, used to working with them on QuickBooks might have challenges working with them on Acumatica. So we help fill that void as well.
Now, do you also have people at your firm who do QuickBooks, or is your whole firm focused on Acumatica?
We're 100% focused on Acumatica.
Wow, that still blows my mind. That's amazing. That's really cool. So, like, the person you're looking for is someone who is using Acumatica. Now, sometimes do you have clients come in the door who are implementing Acumatica and maybe need help with the data conversion work and getting the data in order because it's messy?
Yes, and that's definitely the case in some areas, but we don't take care of any of that when it comes to training or implementation. We stay away from that. We don't want to touch that. That's all more of the of the VAR, the value-added reseller, their position, their role for this. Again, last thing we want to do is step on any of VAR's feet when it comes to either implementation or training or whatnot. Now, if we get a go ahead from a VAR that says yes, please help us with this customer. We've already implemented the customer, we've already trained the customer, but they just don't have the staff, or they just don't have the time, or they just don't want to do it. Then that's really where we can come in.
So there's another thing I was wondering about this, which it sounds like you're not doing, but I've always wondered if there's anyone out there who might do this at some point. Acumatica is really cool the way you can do multi-tenants, and you just have one URL, something.acumatica.com, and you could implement a bunch of tenants inside that one URL. Have you ever thought of or considered potentially even licensing Acumatica through your company and then providing not just the service, but even the software out to it'd probably be smaller companies that maybe are kind of on that border between QuickBooks and Acumatica, where you're even taking care of the licensing, maybe working something out with Acumatica where you get some kind of deal, but then you actually serve up the software and the service to the clients. Has that ever been an option, or is it just you deal with people who already own Acumatica on their own?
Yeah, we deal with people who already own Acumatica. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. It's really just simplistic, basic. If there's a bookkeeping need, folks that, as I mentioned, who have issues with either their ARs or their APs or even both for that matter, we can help out. Now, not to say that we're not going to in the future, but it's just something that, we might want to consider. I'm not really sure at this point, but for right now, Yeah, it's really just more of the bookkeeping aspect of the service that we offer.
So you listed a ton of stuff in there. You said you do work with payroll providers. You don't do payroll yourselves. What I don't remember if you said this already, but did you mention sales tax? And do you do sales tax?
Yes. I mean, we definitely we would report on the aspect of it, managing the books of it. But as far as an actual tax accountant, no, we really don't want to touch taxes either.
But maybe you might work with like an Avalara that integrates with Acumatica or another provider that handles the calculations, and you would just administer maybe the filings or something like that.
Absolutely. Yes. Now that I would also say if the client, if the Acumatica client had that software, yes. And speaking of having the software as well, just really quick to mention is that, let's say that if we were to onboard a customer, what we would ask the customer is for them to grant us a license for their Acumatica deployment themselves. So therefore, we would be using, their licenses per se. So it's not like we would purchase a license on our own. It's more of we would use a license for the customer.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things about Acumatica. It's not per user licensing, so adding on extra people to get into the system is free, right? So it's a no-brainer for companies to do that.
Sure. Yes.
Now you don't have to talk about pricing, but maybe talk about pricing options in terms of how you go to market. A typical VAR goes to market in a consulting fashion where you're billing by the hour, you're working on projects. I would assume that you're more into recurring work. And is that true? And how do you price that? Is it small, medium, large, depending on the services? How do you go to market there?
Yeah, it all depends on the services. I mean, quite frankly, when we first, thought about this vertical, we had a price list going, and then after talking to some folks, we decided to kind of scrap that because, as I mentioned earlier, it really depends on what the need is. If I talk to company A, they have a need for AR issues. Okay, we'll help them with their AR. Company B, they have AP issues. Okay, company C, they need both. So it really depends on that. It also depends on how many types of transactions they have on a monthly basis. But I will say this, though, that we are asking for a 1-year commitment with a 6 months, to cancel if you wanted. But it's more of a one year commitment that we're looking for.
And that makes sense. Bookkeeping is something that's recurring in nature, and you don't want to just get stuck with a bunch of messy reconciliation work. I mean, you're going to put in more work up front, I would assume, and then you're going to provide value on an ongoing basis. And you want a longer term relationship with your clients, I would assume.
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, great little overview. I appreciate you coming on and giving some details about what you're doing. Definitely looks interesting. I mean, I never thought I would see Acumatica bookkeeping service out there. So it definitely intrigued me. And I appreciate you sharing some details on what you're doing there.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Yeah, I'd just like to also mention, Tim, too, that, I mean, look, there's about, depending on what source you read and whatnot, there's about 8,000 plus customers out there that are using Acumatica. And I figure maybe, a lot of them, have the support they need. Some of them don't have the support they need. And we're here to help fill that void, is it okay if I give my phone number out at least? If anybody's got any kind of questions, they can give me a call.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You can read it, and then I'll also put a link on the episode notes to it, but go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's 847-603-4426. And that's my direct dial. Again, my name is Jeff. And if there's any types of needs, and obviously, in the bookkeeping space, obviously we can help. But even if it's not in the bookkeeping space, if there's maybe a customer there, Acumatica customer that had a deployment, and then they called a year later, and then they find out that their value-added reseller is no longer in business, and they don't really know where to go. We can definitely at least point some directions that way too of some reputable folks too. So regardless if we get your business or we don't get your business, we still want to help.
I thought of two additional questions. One, when you mentioned the customer count, there's always a question mark. I think we all have. How many of those are actually in the United States? Is your service just for United States companies?
Our service is just for Acumatica customers.
But Acumatica customers who are located in the United States or anywhere in the world?
Anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Anywhere.
So you would hit, you would include, there's a good number of companies that are using Acumatica that's branded as MYOB over in Australia. That would be something you would work with.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I mean, again, it's Acumatica customers, but obviously, when it comes to the marketplace is really, our primary goal is really in North America, U.S. and Canada. But again, anybody that needs help, worldwide in Acumatica, we can definitely help out.
And then you also mentioned VAR, which did make me think, what is your actual, well, first, do you even have a contractual relationship with Acumatica? And if you do, is it a traditional VAR relationship, or is it an ISV relationship, or is it something else? I mean, what does that look like?
So we're more of an ISV relationship with Acumatica. We are not a VAR. But I'm just saying that folks that I spoke to, I mean, I was at the Acumatica Summit in January this past year. And I got to meet some folks there, some different VARs there. And when I spoke to some folks, they were saying, "Oh yeah, this could definitely be a great need," because what we're experiencing here, or what I'm hearing rather, is that VARs will say, "Yes, after implementation is done, the customer keeps coming back to me and they want more, and and I want to help them out because it's customer set and I want to do the right thing here, but I've only had so many hours in a day." So that's kind of where we kind of help the VAR out as well. So I mentioned to some of the VARs, well, let us take some of that load off of you, so you can focus on obviously selling more Acumatica, getting Acumatica out there, more deployments out there, and for the folks that are having struggling issues with it. As far as with it, meaning maintaining their books, maintaining the recordings of the financial information on there, that's where we could really help.
And that makes sense. It does sound more like an ISV relationship, although and I'm correct in assuming that you're providing a service, you're not providing any software. That's
correct. Yeah, we are service oriented. Yes.
So normally ISV is an independent software vendor, but you're like an independent service vendor. That's your relationship.
Yes.
Well, that's cool. I mean, I think that makes sense. And, it also, you look at a lot of accounting firms are picking up Acumatica now, but even when an accounting firm picks it up, there's always like two sides of the house, right? I mean, there's like the accounting side of the firm, and then they usually spin up a separate like technology group, right? And it really is two different offerings. So it totally makes sense to me that you would pair well with a VAR in a similar way to an accounting firm when they pick up an Acumatica, something like an Acumatica. And because it really is two different things. One is implementing the technology, and the other is just focused on the business side, the bookkeeping side, the accounting side, which it's nice to know the software, which is why you've trained up on Acumatica and focusing on Acumatica. But your real value is the services that you're providing on the business side.
That's correct. Yes.
Well, anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
No, I was just going to say, to the folks that are out there that are kind of kicking tires and wondering, okay, is this really for me? I would say that again, I just want to stress that, our team of professional bookkeepers, with 175 hours of Acumatica training and certification, we follow and support the Acumatica best practices. So, it could be, whether or not it's somebody that is, a veteran to Acumatica, they've been using Acumatica for a while, and they think they know a lot about it, but then when they realize, oh, wow, there's a lot more about this that I don't know, we could definitely help. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware out there that, we're here for you, and we are definitely the industry experts in this field.
And you can confirm for our listeners, since we like to keep it real on augforums.com, real talk, you can confirm that this was not a paid advertisement, right? You did not pay me anything to come on this podcast.
No, I did not pay you anything. I actually asked you also if there was a fee, and you said no. So no.
I just like learning about things that are interesting. This looked interesting to me, and everything you shared confirmed that this is definitely an interesting idea. So I wish you the best, and I think it's really cool what you're doing there, and I really hope you're really successful with it.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it as well. And if you need me on to speak any more, podcast, please reach out to me. I definitely I have no problem doing this. You're great. I enjoy speaking with you.
Well, even though this is not a paid infomercial, we'll do it infomercial style. How about you give everyone your phone number one more time? They want to reach out to you.
Great. All right. Yeah. So it's 847-603-4426. Or you can go to our website at 247digitize.com. And 24/7 is the actual letter, the numbers 24/7. It's not spelled out. 247digitize.com. That's us.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again, Jeff, for coming on.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it, sir.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of augforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening and take care.